Well, a very good afternoon. Welcome to this afternoon session here at British Tourism and Travel Show 2023. My name's Stuart Render. I'm a group tourism, I'm reading it, I think I'd know by now. I'm a group tourism consultant, transport and travel writer, and I'm also the joint chair of the British Guild of Travel Writers. So it gives me very great pleasure to be here to facilitate, to moderate on this year's keynote sessions. And I think just looking around the show, and it's just magnificent to see how many people, yourselves here now, but looking up the aisles and along the aisles, to see how travel is bouncing back after our last few turbulent years. But are you making the most of that bounce back? To explain how a variety of travel and tourism brands are using digital marketing and their website to drive more sales and leads, and to give us a few practical tips that can be implemented on small and large budgets. Who's got a large budget? Anyway, please welcome the Chief Executive of digital marketing agency Adido, Andy Headington.
Very good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay? Yep, lots of nodding heads, so I'll take that as a yes. Thank you very much. And thank you, Stuart, for inviting me on stage, and also thank you to the organisers today. I actually first spoke at this event 5 years ago, where we had Angela Rippon, who was the headline act. I'm on after lunch, so I don't know if I'm quite at Angela's level, but hopefully I'll be just as entertaining, and if not, informative. So for those of you who've never heard of it, which is probably nearly all of you, I helped to start Adido, a digital marketing agency based in Bournemouth in 2003. I have done probably a few hundred talks in that time, primarily around SEO, PPC, digital marketing, and ultimately how to drive more commercial revenue and profits from the thing that we use pretty much all of our lives, all of the time. I've also looked at many, many different websites in the travel and tourism industry, so I have a lot of experience about what works and where people tend to misfocus or waste their budgets. So this is me talking at various different events. I also have 3 children. I live in Salisbury, so this is the park where the Skripals were found, and I was 5 minutes away from meeting the Skripals as they were introduced to various toxins by our Russian friends. But this is my 3 children. I spend a lot of time going out to different attractions, trying to entertain them as well as run a company. So, as Stuart said, we've got a very full room today. Fantastic to see tourism come back. It's been a really interesting few months for a lot of our clients. And I thought I'd just start quickly by looking at some of the trends that we've seen at the very top level, both in terms of travel in the UK and internationally, but also then leading on some research about tourism venues and attractions in the UK and what may or may not be happening. So I was lucky enough to be in Travel Weekly, some of you may read this, earlier this year, talking about the trends that we'd seen, both in terms of January peaks, bookings, and also then into February. And what we noticed through the data we had was that most businesses in travel had seen quite a lot of comeback in terms of bookings, conversion rates, average booking value compared to the benchmark that most people are looking at of 2019. So 2019 was this is our benchmark, 2020 doesn't count, 21 was a half year, 22 was, I don't know if that's good or not. Let's look at what's happening now and compare it to two or 3 years ago or last year. And what we're seeing is what we saw in 22. Generally, traffic was coming back. Generally, bookings were coming back. A lot of companies had really good summers. Conversion rates weren't quite there. And 23 seems to be one of the most positive years on record so far for a lot of travel businesses, and a lot of people have broken their records. Now, despite bookings being brilliant in 23 so far, what we've also noticed through some of our client analysis is that the traffic levels aren't quite where they were in 2019. So yes, you may have seen lots of bookings come back. Maybe you're anticipating lots of bookings coming back for the year ahead, if you're into travel domestically or internationally. But the traffic levels aren't quite there. And what we're trying to do at the moment is understand whether the successes we've had in the first few months will carry on through 2023. That is the 100,000, £1 million, £10 million question that we're trying to answer. Perhaps you've got in your head as well. And if you want to have a conversation about that, I'm certainly interested to do so. But a lot of people in the room today probably are not interested in travel overseas. So what about in the UK? What happened last year compared to, again, 2019 and previous years? So now if you've never heard of this company called Scattered Clouds and you're into inbound tourism, destinations, etc., I highly recommend that you speak to or follow David. This is all information David's published, and it shows general visits to a lot of the most famous attractions in the UK. And as you can see here, it depends in terms of whether we've had the bounce back or not. Typically, 2000 to 2020 has been a significant growth. Lots of people have gone out on days out with their kids, cost of going abroad, etc., etc. 2020, obviously, we don't talk about that. In 21, some venues have really struggled to come back. Some have really bounced back. So what I'm expecting for people in the room today is that 23 will be a positive year. I really hope it will be a positive year. And what I think then I'm going to now lead on to is thinking about your own website. So if there is demand out there, we've had a lot of pent-up demand, we've had a lot of bookings. Is that going to carry on into 23? I hope it does. But for you and your business and your marketing teams, or you as a marketeer, how are you then going to capitalize on that stuff? So the first thing I would suggest or guess, if I had to do my Darren Brown mind control, is that brand traffic drives most, if not all, of your traffic to your website. That is people typing in Devon's top attractions and going to a website, or visit Leicestershire, or something else I can see, Bodmin Jail. They'll type that into Google. They may go directly to that website. And most people will follow that journey of type something into Google, and other search engines are available, and then they'll come through to your website. Now, what I see a lot of the time for destination brands and tourism brands is they don't make enough of this real estate in the Google search results. So number one to think about is, are you running paid ads on your own brand term? I.e., if you're Bodmin Jail, do you have a sponsored advert at the top that says, come to Bodmin Jail, click here? If no one else is there presently, I would say don't have an advert there. National Football Museum here, you can see at the top, they've changed their results recently. It says sponsored advert at the top. They've taken a big chunk of real estate. They've also got the free listings there as well. Most people are lazy. Most people click the first result. That's going to cost the National Football Museum money for traffic that they probably would just get anyway. And this is the bane of my life with all of my clients, is people paying for traffic they would normally already get. So number one, if you're running paid ads, I would suggest maybe you don't need to. If you are running paid ads because other people are, they're going to take your traffic away from you. Intermediaries, other booking websites, etc. There's a fight going on there. We've worked with a few attractions and travel businesses to trademark a particular term. By trademarking that term, it means they can't use it in their ads. Tends to make their ads less relevant, and it either costs them more money, or they can't then bid on the phrases you want them to. So when people are typing in your brand, you want to protect that as much as you possibly can and pay the least amount of money. That would be my recommendation. If you have to bid, then the third thing I would suggest is don't do a test and see if you have to enter the auction or not, because some of my clients feel they have to bid. The auction sites are there, the ticket websites are there. I need to be there and present and push them out of the way. What if you just did a test for 2 weeks, a month, take your adverts out, see if people go, no, that's a paid ad. I don't want to click on that. I'm going to click on the organic one and go there anyway. So this is about making the most of your budget and trying to capture as much traffic that's basically yours without it going anywhere else. Second thing then is once you've covered the paid part, how are you then looking in the listings there? Are you saying the right things to the right audiences? These links here can be controlled by you. I don't know if you were aware of that, but these are listings that you control here as to what is shown, what it says, and how you do that. So you have control over the pages that are shown, and on those pages you have, as shown here, 60 characters for a heading, about 120 depending on the link where it shows, as the second ones. So this is, again, my traffic that I want to come to my website. Which pages do I want to highlight? What do I want to say? Again, control that, send people to the right places. Next thing you need to think about is, are people typing in my venue and then wanting to ask a question? So these FAQ things in the Google search results are really important. Google's trying to answer as many questions as it can now within Google without taking people to your website, which is a bit frustrating. But again, if you're a popular brand, so for example, we work with Poulton's Park. Poulton's Park has Peppa Pig World. Peppa Pig, as we have discovered in recent times, probably one of the most bastardized children characters out there. People want to ask a lot of questions and people want to mislead a lot of the time. So these FAQs yes, there are questions that are asked, but we need to control A, the messaging, B, the content, and C, the information that's shown to the user. If this is your brand, this is your destination, this is your company, what are those FAQs? Are you in that listing? Click on the arrow, it will show you. And then if you click on the arrow, you also get a ton of other questions that will just appear. So if you're thinking about how do I control my journey, protect my brand, give people the right experience, see how many of those questions are being asked, how many are relevant, how many, again, can you write content for, because Google will probably value your website over another one. Make sure you're bringing people through. Again, your journey needs to be smooth and clear. You don't want people turning up and complaining because they've got the wrong car parking information, they weren't told the opening hours. This is now called Google Business Profile, different type of GBP. If you've not got control of this, if you've not seen this, if you've not updated it, again, just make sure it's up to date, because there's lots of still COVID-19 stuff I see around with venues and attractions. Make sure that's up to date and relevant, because you don't want to annoy people and get bad reviews. The final thing in terms of controlling your journey, again, is this bit here. So again, wherever there's attention, wherever there's clicks, Google's looking to monetize. Some of you may have seen this for your brand or other brands. What on earth is it? This is basically called Google Things to Do Partners. So Google knows about the ticket platforms and destinations, knows where tickets can be bought from. It's now trying to push people through particular routes with different ticket offerings, etc. If you're not sure about how to get in there, what those tickets are, why people are selling them at crazy prices, I've seen that occasionally as well. This is where it's coming from, and this is the list of companies that are basically pushing data through to that particular part of the Google search results. So if you are thinking really about how do I manage my own traffic, maximize it, make sure people have a good experience as their first touch point, this is a key area to look at. But that's great, you know, people know about you, know about your destination. They're going to probably buy from you anyway. What about all these people out there that have no idea who you are, that you even exist, that you're coming to Wales for the first time? I want to go on a great tourist thing. What do I do? Where do I go? If you want to reach new customers, Google has a number of paid advertising routes through its Google Ads product. The newest and most talked about in the last 12 months is a thing called Performance Max. And what Performance Max does is it basically takes all of your website and content and ads, and it throws it out to anywhere in the Google network, which could be the Discover thing, it could be Gmail, it could be even YouTube. And it says, well, I'm a computer, I know best, I can optimize everything for you, you don't need to do anything, Mr. Client, I can do it all. My big concern with this thing is it needs a lot of management, it needs a lot of time, it needs a lot of data to work properly. And I liken it a bit to a dog. Okay, it can work and it can do what you want. But what I've seen too many times with Performance Max, when you say go fetch, it just does the simplest thing, which is drive crap traffic, waste your budget, and do the wrong thing for you as a business. So what I want to do is to say today is you can reach new audiences and there are great tools out there, but don't just rely on what Google tells you. You need to be investing time and money. So that's Google and search results. Now about thinking about where do you invest. Now we have a bit of an issue in the UK and generally in the world where consumer confidence is a bit of an all-time low, and I turned on the radio this morning and they said inflation's gone up again, and I thought, for goodness sake, I thought the news was supposed to be good and it was supposed to be going down. We're at a point now I think confidence is quite low. People are going to really think a lot harder perhaps in the next 6 to 12 months about when they spend their money and where. And I think if you're trying to harness some of these trends that we're seeing in terms of why should I go to your venue over somebody else, this is a guy called George who I met at the Visitor Attractions Conference last year, who has a place called Matlock Farm. He's part of their family-run farm. Great day out for the kids, great day out for tourism. They've done a huge amount on Facebook in the last 12 to 24 months to promote their brand. George is the face of Matlock Farm. Not a bad face to have, I guess. And he's done really well in promoting this, A, getting the brand out there, B, driving traffic and ticket sales, ultimately, to the farm. It got so popular through the content that they produced, they then invested in better quality content, and they had their own YouTube channel. And it almost looks a bit like a CBeebies style program here, which, again, as a parent, and I've been to the farm and I know about it, or even if I see an advert come up on my YouTube playlist, it's something I'm going to look at, think this is credible, and potentially watch. So invest in really good content. If you can't, think about different types of campaigns. I'd love to take the credit for this one, but I can't. But think about your messaging at different times of the year. We're just heading into spring. If you're the RSPB, you can play on words and really promote, your outdoor things at Easter. Why not? Why wouldn't you? There's lots of National Trust things I've been to where they tie up with local cartoon characters, again, famous faces, bring those through as campaigns, but it doesn't always have to be fun, doesn't have to be clickbait, it can also be very serious. So timing your messaging and thinking about what do people want in a point perhaps with a low confidence, unsure, need a reason to go, think about your messaging and time it really well. Another thing about where to invest and when, I would suggest a lot of places could do better with their pricing. I've seen a lot of people who just say, no, that's the price, and it doesn't matter if it's holidays, school days, weekends. We're at a point now where income, as I say, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but there's a reality here. We've got probably less money in our pockets than we've ever had. We need to really think about how do I attract people in? How do I get people to buy when they're unsure? Don't think about it. And again, there's lots of good research out. This is from a company called the Audience Agency. Lots of great content on their website that looks at different regions of the UK. And they've talked a lot here about membership. And I know at the Visitor Attraction Conference again earlier, end of last year, that memberships have really taken a pounding a lot in the last 12, 24, 36 months as people look through their bank balances and say, can I afford this, can I not? Memberships might be something you should try because you might be able to get people to come back, or maybe you can unbundle a membership and break it into smaller parts and again, adjust your pricing. Most of the attractions we've ever worked with, and as this graph shows here, tend to have a catchment area, again, of 30 to 60 minutes. Can you price it cheaper for a local resident? Get them to come in, they're easier to attract and win. Can you maybe bid differently on Facebook ads and Google ads to bid on a particular radius around your attraction? That may be a way of, again, targeting people that are in area, in market, just need a bit of convincing. So that's maybe thinking about different ways to approach a problem. When it comes to social media, in the UK we are very into social media. We use roughly 6 or so platforms each month, although that does include WhatsApp and YouTube, which I don't think would necessarily count. But we've definitely seen a change in the landscape in the last couple of years with TikTok, rightly or wrongly, becoming a big destination for attention and eyeballs and traffic. So much so that in the younger group, we'll say the teenagers or early 20s, it is probably the dominant platform now that they spend time and may I even say maybe addicted to. And where perhaps if you as an attraction are trying to get to that audience, maybe get the pester power, influence people as bigger decisions, it would really be where I'd be spending a lot of time thinking about creating content, building an audience or building awareness. However, if you're doing that, you're not necessarily going to be able to measure it in the same way you have with your website. So with Google Ads or search, people come through, they visit my website, and I can see how many people have done that. With social media, tracking it is a little bit harder. These platforms, again, want to keep you in the platform. They don't want to take you out. And so when you're spending time or money and effort in it, it's going to be a bit harder to measure whether it's been successful or not. The other thing to think about, again, is these platforms are money-making machines for their owners and Wall Street. They don't care about your business. They don't really care about you. So increasingly, they're taking away the organic traffic that you may have had. You look at your numbers and you go, but it wasn't as good as last year or 2019. Why is that? It's because they're gradually taking the throttle away of free traffic and making you pay for it. And this is the sort of trends, again, you want to see. So if you're benchmarking your traffic on reach on Google, 2% of your followers on average will see your post, which I think is really crap, but that's the reality. So you probably need to start thinking about paying for it. And the one big thing I would also suggest is if you don't have someone in-house that really understands this stuff, really cares about this stuff, has the time, passion and energy, and you're just thinking, well, we should do it because everyone else said so, or Andy said it was a good idea, I would maybe think again, because the great successes I've ever seen, again, our friend George, this is the Black Country Museum, which got millions of views for some of their historical content they created around some of the stories they had in their museum. People there were doing this on the weekend because they wanted to, because they loved the place. They didn't have 20,000 or 2,000 pounds to invest. Someone just said, I want to make a video and can I do it? And they said, yeah, okay, run with it. So that's my word of warning with social media. Yes, it can really drive footfall. Yes, it can be really impactful for your brand and getting your attention and awareness out there, but you really need someone who's clued up and committed to making it work rather than trying it for 3 months, going, I don't understand it, it didn't work, and running out of time. So if you're thinking about using social, then why are you doing it? Is it to get more bookings, get new visitors, tell your story? Probably all of that stuff. It's all valid, it's all relevant. But you probably can't measure a lot of what happens, and you're probably going to need some skills and some money to really make the most of it. So just because it's free doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Take a step back and really think about what it is you're trying to achieve, who you're trying to appeal to, and you'll see some success from there. Now, I'm rapidly running out of time, but just for the final 2 minutes, I talked about measuring activity. I hope that most of you are aware of the fact that Google Analytics is, number one, the standard in terms of website measurement. At least 50-60% of the websites in the world have Google Analytics on it. Does everyone here have Google Analytics? Okay. Are you aware, I hope that you're aware, that as of the 1st of July this year, in 3 months' time, the Google Analytics you have on your website will stop collecting new data. Who didn't know that? We're all friends? Okay. Why is Google doing that? I could do another hour on that. I'm not going to. But Google Analytics 4 is their new analytical website measuring tool. But it's not the next version of, it's not a continuation of the previous tool. It's a brand new tool. It has no data from previously, and it works in a very different way. And if you want to use an analogy, this is one from a lady called Jill Quick, one of the GA4 gurus, I call her. We've been driving a car for the last 5 to 10 years in terms of what we know, where do we go, what do we see, how does it work. We've now got to get out of the car and now start to fly a helicopter. It still gets you from A to B, but your measurements, your way around, your flight path is very, very different. We've had Google Analytics 4 and Adido for about 2.5 years. We didn't like it at first. Still don't really like it now. And this is just some snapshots of people who I've taken from the internet. I hate it. Eventually, I'll love it. This is probably the biggest one. Google is supposed to make the web more accessible, and this is a big, obvious step back. Now, small businesses need a GA4 consultant to do anything useful. The forced migration, I can think they don't want people to use analytics products. And this is a big question I've got in my head. Again, let's not get into that now. But if you haven't set up GA4, you can do. There are a number of things you can do. You can set up for free. There's an automatic tool Google gives you. You can basically take the code from Google Analytics 4. There's a big box that comes up when you log into your analytics. It says, it's my stopping on the 1st of July. Get your GA4 code here, put it into your website. You can do that, and it will collect some data. But if you're really interested in measuring your website performance, spending money, seeing my ROI, seeing my ticket sales, which products are the best, where are people coming from, with e-commerce, the sad state of affairs is you're probably going to have to spend some money, maybe up to £5,000. Yes, unfortunately you are, because it's a very complicated tool, and there's no easy quick wins. So you can do it quickly and cheap. You can do it expensively and properly for the next 3 to 5 years. But even if you set up GA4, we've gone from a world of lots and lots of reports down to just 19 now and having to build a lot of it ourselves. So again, I don't want to end on a bad note. GA4 is a powerful, powerful tool. It's just a giant pain in the bum, to put it nicely. So there are alternatives out there. This one we've used Piwik, another one called Matomo, many others that probably cost £20 a month, easier to set up, easier to understand, less headache. So just because it's Google, I don't want everyone walking out here today going, I must get GA4. There are brilliant tools out there which you've never heard of that can do a great job as well. I'm over time, so just very quickly to summarize. Traffic to your attraction, your travel brand, your company name, whatever, will probably be on your brand. Make sure you maximize that page. Look at all these different elements I talked about. Control that journey and bring people through in the right way at the right time. If you're using social media, spending time there, think about how you measure it. Think about the investment you make into really good content and then how you promote it out. And my final point is when you want to measure this stuff, we have used Google Analytics for 10 years. You probably can use GA4 in the future, but you don't necessarily have to. So think about and look at alternatives. Thank you very much for your attention today. I hope you have a great show. Thank you for listening. Give me your ears. I'll be here for another 5-10 minutes for questions. But that's me, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Wow. Thank you very much indeed. That's astonishing. Come and take a seat. So, if you're sitting in the audience and you've got hardly any budget at all, this is quite scary. And I think we've seen some guidance there on where you might turn. But if you're possibly thinking, oh, we should be spending £5,000, you probably haven't got the budget for that. You probably should have the budget for it, but you probably don't. You might be a very small attraction or supplier, and you've got nobody actually physical or dedicated to doing this. I think the first question, therefore, is where'd you go with this? Is this something you have to do because it makes sense, or you've got to prioritise where this goes? But this is not an easy one.
Google's stopping their free analytics product because I think it costs them too much money to run. There's too much of a headache for GDPR because there are 10 to 15 years worth of data across millions and millions of websites, email addresses, IP addresses, personal names. They can't have this data forever. They made the announcement last March, and yet there are still people in the room today that haven't heard about it. So they have done a PR job. I think they've done a bad one. Ultimately, we have no choice. Google Analytics is their product. They've given it to us for free. They've decided that they're not going to have it for free anymore. So you have a choice to move. GA4, as I say, is not an easy product to set up or use. I have seen people do it themselves. I've seen people do it for cheap. But the problem is with bad data in, you get bad data out, and therefore it's not that particularly helpful. So there are tutorials, there are how-to guides. Somebody can go away with their web team and say, right, go and set it up, and they can have a bash. But there ultimately is a reality of if you want to measure your ticket sales through your website, you're going to have to find an alternative, and very quickly if you haven't. So those other ones I talked about are very viable options, but many people have never heard of them. So if nothing else from today and you want to investigate, look at some of those. I can give you some advice about some good ones and bad ones and pros and cons. But we've all got to deal with it. There's no choice.
Yeah. We've got time for a few questions. If there must be something. Goodness me. Yeah. Let me bring you the microphone.
Right. Yeah, so we invest quite a lot of money in Facebook ads. I know you touched on content and stuff, and it seems to be in a steady decline. Do you think Facebook ads is dead in the water and we need to invest somewhere else? Or do you think it's going to come back with a different algorithm?
Do I think Facebook ads are dead? Is that what your question was? Yeah. I think Facebook ads have been through a bad time. The big problem that we've had with Facebook is measurement, like a lot of things, because of iOS and Apple's move to try and basically kill Facebook and make it a redundant platform. I have seen some very good success with Facebook. It's certainly not what it was 2 or 3 years ago. And the advice we were getting 2 or 3 years ago is let the system do our ads for us. So give it the creative, give it lots of fresh creative, lots of fresh ads, new imagery, new offers, new promos, new content. We've even seen some success in the past where you copy and paste an old campaign and put it into a new group, and all of a sudden it becomes full of life again. So I think it does work. It just needs more effort and more time and more thinking about than it did before. And again, if you're struggling for time and budget, it just needs more attention. So I think that's the message with a lot of these things. It's becoming harder and probably more expensive. So if you don't have that time and money, maybe it is dead to you, but otherwise I think it can work still.
Do we have any other questions? The obvious question is, this is GA4. When's GA5?
GA4 has been around for 2.5 years. I think that they're still rolling out lots of features. GA3, if you like, was around for best part 12 years. So if this doesn't make it to 2030, then I think we need to ask a lot of questions. But I think we've got plenty of time ahead of us to get into it and fix it and learn and benefit from it ultimately. But it's just a massive learning curve. And I'm very sorry if I've come and rained on your parades today. But if you want to ask me more questions, then I'm more than happy to do so.
Well, Andy will be around for a little bit just at the end here. That's astonishing, really. I think we think we know what we're doing. and I think many people do here, but there was some shaking of the heads earlier on, and you think, okay, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Just when you think you've got yourself recovered after COVID, and you're bouncing back, and then well, it was ever thus, I guess, and it's not going to get any better.
But the last thing I'd want anyone here today is to come to talk about digital marketing and in 3 months' time log in and go, hang on a minute, why is no one telling me about this? And it needs to happen, so better late than never, I guess.
Could be the most significant bit of information at this show today. Thank you. Can we show our appreciation for Andy, please? Thank you very much indeed.